Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current cultural and social issues through a clinical lens. Hello, hello. For those of you who are brand new, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We try to use it wisely. For those of you who are following us, who have liked us, subscribed to us, who routinely wait for our podcast to come out, thank you so much. We appreciate that as well. Your tip of the day today is get more curious. Get more curious. And we are going to talk about the 1% problem. The 1% problem, for those of you who are not familiar, which is probably 0% of you, the 1% problem is the wealth disparity issue. We address all kinds of challenging cultural issues here at Healthy Perspectives. This one's no different. It's challenging for a lot of reasons. The main reason is empathy sucks in a lot of us. So, 1% wealth issue. What is it? The general issue is 1% of the population has the majority of all the money in the world. Okay, great. Why is this actually an issue, though? It's actually an issue because what it comes down to is, and these are social issues. This is not money issues, but stay with me. Fairness, power and influence, and then sustainability. That's it. You boil it all down. And what do you got? You got an issue of fairness, power or influence, and sustainability. Now, when we say fairness, we go, well, why should 1% have all that money? If you were on the wealthy side, if you were in the 1%, what you would say is, why doesn't everyone else earn the money the way I did? You're going to be like, well, maybe those 1%ers were inherited it, or somewhere in their family lineage, somebody had to take some big risks and make some good money. They had to earn it a hard way. Even if we go back to gangster times. You think losing your uncle, losing your brother, losing your friend, you think that's easy? No. Now, I'm not suggesting we go back to those times, but even if it was earned in an unhealthy, socially unhealthy way, it still came at a cost. Either blood, sweat, tears, or all three. Okay. So power and influence. Let me look. This is an interesting topic from my vantage point. We're going to get a little philosophical here. I think that power is a fallacy. I actually, a lot of people will disagree with me. Yes, I've read all about power and how it's used in politics and how it's used in economics and all this stuff. And I get it. I understand the argument, but I think power is a myth. I think it's perpetuated by people who want to feel like they have it. And I think influence is the better term. Influence. At the end of the day, if you have billions of dollars, but you have no influence, you're worthless. You may have $1 billion, but you're worthless. You don't have any actual influence. Now, you might say, well, I would just use the money to influence. Yes, transactionally, that makes sense. And I will get into why that is an absolutely dysfunctional way. I will cover that when we talk specifically about the wealthy. And it has to do with the human design. The human design. It's not what you think. It is not designed for power. Okay. Sustainability. Now, this is where it gets really interesting as far as I can tell. We want things in sustainability in that category. We want things like innovation. We want to eliminate things like greed. At the end of the day, sustainability, when it comes to money, is really not that difficult. Money has a design. It has a very specific design. And when we use it in the way that it's designed, having people with a lot and people with not as much, not a big problem. Still a problem. Yeah, sure. You can go to all the humanity things, and we'll get to some of that when we humanize it all. But it's not a big problem because money is doing what it's supposed to do. And if money is doing what it's supposed to do, then people have the opportunity to catch it. It's when money stops doing what it's supposed to do that it becomes a problem. So sustainability is actually not about all this other stuff. It's about movement. It's about movement. Pure and simple. That's all there is to it. Now you could try to complicate it. You could take some macroeconomic classes or some microeconomic classes, and you could come up with all these other theories. But at the end of the day, money is designed to move. When it's not moving, it's a problem. That's the issue. Money has to keep moving. Well, then how do I save money? Good question. We'll get there. All right. So let's humanize the issue. We're going to break it down into two categories. First, the 1%. The 1%, if we empathize with the 1%, then we quickly identify that that money is earned and consumed in different ways. Okay. What? I have millions, so I buy fancy cars, and that's really good. And I have fancy homes, and I take luxurious vacations and all of these things. So I'm not greedy. You could see that from a wealthy person's perspective. I am doing what I can. However, the big issue, the big downside of it, the potential risk is arrogance and greed. If not me, if I'm not the one who has all these millions of dollars, well, then who? And are they going to be as good at managing it as I am? See the arrogance and the greed that then starts to build? It's a slippery slope. Truth is, maybe you were the best at building wealth, but maybe there's others who are better at sustaining it in a humane way. And maybe there's even others who, by wasting it essentially, who are going to benefit from your leftovers. We see it all the time in downtown cities, like the metropolitans. You see somebody going through a garbage can, you're like, wow. And somehow they're finding food. They find those leftovers. Okay. The 99%, let's empathize with them. Let's be real. The 99% are just trying to make it. They're just trying to get by, survive the month, the week, the year, the day. So what we end up with, the slippery slope on that one, is jealousy and scarcity. Excuse me. I have done podcasts on scarcity. Go back, listen to them if you want. But this is problematic too. It creates issues too. So which one of them is better, actually? The arrogant or the jealous? The greedy or the ones that are just trying to survive? And so they do whatever it takes in their mind to get what they need. Maybe steal, borrow. Who do you think they're borrowing from? I mean, it's not the other poor people. So that 99%, now the trick here is the 99% is way more diverse than I just made it sound. A good portion of that 99%, a good portion of them are doing just fine. A small portion of them have the pinnacle of the jealousy and the scarcity. And in complete transparency, I really truly believe this because I've met some of them. That there is a number of people who are in the I'm doing well enough and I am kind of done trying to make more for the sake of making more. And they reinvest their time, energy, and resources in other ways as to not because they want to intentionally not make money, but because their goals and objectives are actually more to the design that they have, which is what? We're relational. The human design is to be relational. We should be infusing that into every aspect of our life. We should infuse it into our reading of the Bible. We should infuse it into our friendships, into our romantic endeavors. We should infuse I am relational. I am relational. Into money, economics. We should infuse it into politics. But people always try to take that out. It's the weirdest thing to me because it's the one thing, no matter how much you want to, you can't actually remove it. Now, how do I know that? The 1%. Now, some of you out there, maybe even listening to this, are very aware that I, because of my career option, have encountered some of the 1%. I mean, we're talking about the wealthiest of the wealthy. And I have encountered them in some pretty interesting ways, if I'm being honest. In ways that, excuse me, I'm still fighting that cold. In ways that many of you may have never encountered them. Matter of fact, because of the circles that they run in, and I've done podcasts on that in the past too, because of the circles that they run in, they often don't interact with what we would call the general population. And I find myself mostly in the general population. Okay. The 1%, though, how do they end up with me? It's simple. They've been trying to navigate relationships and they find that they can't do it, that they're unsuccessful, which is really, really hard for the 1%. If you can empathize with anything, please empathize with this. If a 1%er is having trouble with their marriage or their children or their friends, and they feel like all the people around them only tell them what they want to hear, they're trying to figure out how to grow and get better, but they can't do it because, well, they only hear what they want to hear. Because in the business world, transactions create success. In a lot of cases, actually the vast majority of the cases. So in the business world, it often functions transactionally first and relationally second, which is why in the 1%, they probably would say something like, I don't really have a hard time firing people. It's just part of the deal. It's just part of doing business. But what about those people who got fired? Those human beings who now have to figure out how to make a living. It was a big deal to them. How is it just dismissed? It's because transactions go first. Bottom line, how do I make more, spend less, something of that nature. And you don't fit into the equation anymore. Simple as that. But is that really what they want? If they're coming to me, think about what that means. That means what they actually wanted was relational success. That's what I do. So I get in there and I sit with them and I say, well, you're not going to be able to transact your way to a relationship with your son or your daughter. You can try, and it may look like and even sometimes feel like it's working. But what your son or your daughter wants is time and energy from you. They want love. And love isn't transactional first. It's transactional second. And then we spend time reprioritizing the relationship. The choice to love comes first. The relationship then has the opportunity to bloom, and then the transactions fall under that. If it comes to a transaction or to love, choose love. If it comes to a transaction and love, well, you can choose both. If you have to give up love to create a transaction, don't do it. And we reframe all of that. So, how does this play out? This is super easy. When we talk about the wealthy, they become self-reliant. The 1% becomes self-reliant. They think they can do it all transactionally. And then you end up with the verses like in Matthew 19 through 19:24. Again, I tell you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. Why? Because you can't transact your way to heaven. You can't transact your way to love. Can't do it that way. It doesn't work in that direction. So you have to be relational. How does this play out in their relationships, though? Love disappears. They surround themselves with people who make them money as opposed to people who love and care. And that can be a really big problem. So money then becomes used to accomplish relational success because they think, well, it works everywhere else. Why shouldn't it work here? But then it doesn't work. Think about that. How sad is that? If I'm being totally honest here, when I have encountered the 1%ers, when I've encountered the multimillionaires, there is a sadness level to that because it's such like from where I sit as a social science psychology guy, just flip that one part of the equation in your relationships. Just flip it. Transactions are secondary. Love is primary. And maybe, yeah, that means you're not giving them money or cars or gifts all the time. And not because you don't love them, but because you do. Oh, that's weird. That's well, why would I withhold that stuff when I have all this abundance? Because that's not how you develop the relationship. Gifts is one form of communication of love. One. What about all of the other ones that are getting neglected because you're putting it all into that? It's hard for somebody in that 1% to understand. They're so self-reliant. They're like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to hire somebody who's going to tell me how to fix this. I'm going to hire somebody who's going to come in and fix it and then give it back to me. I'm going to hire. It doesn't work like that. You can't hire love. You have to create it. And the only way to create is to prioritize it. All right, let's flip gears. The 99%, the less wealthy, fantasize about what they do if. I know, I do it. Like, how cool would it be if I had $5 million? I'd buy a house, I'd buy a car, and it so quickly disappears. How much do we fantasize? Now, I'm not in the 1%er, so I'm gonna take a seat in my appropriate spot. It doesn't mean I can't empathize with the 1%ers. I already did that. I did that first so that you know that I can. The less wealthy fantasize about it, which leaves them susceptible. Remember, jealousy and scarcity, right? Well, out of scarcity, who do you think buys all the lottery tickets? It is not the 1%ers. I can just about guarantee that most of the multimillionaires and the billionaires aren't buying any of those lottery tickets. None. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense. They're working percentages. They don't need a big score. They want to grow 15%, 25%, 35%. They don't need the big school. So everybody else is buying lottery tickets, going to casinos, and that honestly makes them crappy with money. Because that by itself is one of the biggest differences between the wealthy and the 99%. Is if it doesn't make financial sense, they're not going to do it. They probably take some risks, some flyers, but probably not a lot of them that seem real risky. They don't, the 99% often doesn't realize their own responsibility that comes with money. How does this play out? Parable of the bags of gold. You all have heard it. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and trusted his wealth to them. He calls three people, he gives them each money, and he says, and I'm going to be gone when I get back. I want my money in return. And the two of them invest it, and one of them buries it in the sand or the dirt or whatever. And what happens? The man comes back and is like, what? You didn't even put it in the bank and make the 2%? What's wrong with you? We often don't realize our responsibility in our stagnation. That's a problem, folks. That's a problem. $100 here, $100 there, $5 here, $5 there. Trust me, I could Costco all of my money away. Easily 20 to $30 at a time. I could come home poor tomorrow and no problem. So the less wealthy often fantasize about the wealth instead of taking those little baby steps that ultimately add up to wealth. 3%, 5% at a time. 3%, 5% at a time. And so they remain jealous. They live in scarcity instead of changing that dynamic. In other words, yeah, it's our fault. There is that middle ground that I told you about earlier. In that 99%, there is a percentage that are probably healthy. But it's hard to say what that is because we typically hear more about the 1%er than those others. But they're in there. They're in there. And I don't know what the percentage of us would be in that category. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 15, maybe 20, 30%, something like that. I'm guessing, I don't know this, but I'm guessing it has something to do with like the opposite side of the poverty piece, which is what, 30%, 25 to 30% of the population, something like that. Excuse me. Let's take a look at the system. I know I'm breaking this down pretty interesting, I think, but hopefully it's interesting to you. The system. How does money function? How is money supposed to function? I said it earlier. Money is designed to move. That's its design. A car is designed to move. When it's driving, it lasts longer. A plane is designed to fly. When it's flying, it lasts longer. Money is designed to move. People are designed to be in relations. People are designed to be in relationships. So money really only has three tasks. Spend it, give it, those make it move fast, or save it. And that, depending on how it's done, can be slow, fast, or stagnant. Completely stagnant. When it becomes stagnant, it is going against its design. That is where greed comes into the equation. That is where the arrogance of the wealthy to say, I can store enough in my what did they, how did the silos, the grains, they did that in the Bible too. I'm just going to store it. But guess what? It's never enough. It is not going to last. That was also why you got that 3-generation problem. I make it, I learn how to sustain it. Then the next generation comes along and loses it. That's a thing too. I did a podcast on that not too long ago. But money is designed to move. It's when it becomes stagnant that it causes a problem in the economy. If it is moving, it's doing what it's designed to do. So why am I bringing all this up? There's been this big push to cap capitalism. There's actually somebody I've been interacting with. I'm guessing he's got something to do with Elizabeth Warren and her whole spiel, because that's where I discovered it. The 28th Amendment proposal, capitated capitalism. I've been in a pretty interesting conversation with this guy. And here's the thing. If you do that, you could end up inadvertently, but still nonetheless, creating stagnation instead of movement. Because when people think you're going to come in and take their money, they'd rather store it in a pillow or a safe in the form of gold or silver. And you could create a lack of movement with money if you go with the stick method and say, we're going to cap it. Once it gets up here, you're going to have 90 days to find a way to spend it. Because then they're just going to be like, great, buying more gold, putting it in the safe. And that creates stagnation, not movement. And we would end up with a false ceiling, and I'm sure that thing would fall apart. That being said, the other option is the carrot. Now, the goals have to be understood. The goals have to be understood. Money is designed to move. So the first goal has to be move money. We have to find ways to make money keep moving. Okay. And number 2, humanity. We people are designed to be in relationship, love first, transaction second. And then the third I would propose would be innovation. Finding ways to make money work better for humanity. Whether that's in cleanliness stuff, whether that's in poverty, raising up poverty, stuff like that. And then if those things are in place, we have a direction to go. So don't forget, like, where we started here. We started with get more curious. If you can empathize with all of this, here's the mission. We have to solve the problem of how to make money move effectively, efficiently, and a lot. That's what keeps it going, making money move for what? Humanity. The betterment of all people. So if I have a lot, I would be incentivized to make more millionaires. I want to do that. It moves money and puts relationships first, giving people the freedom to do some of the things that they wanted to do. So invest in people. Still our greatest asset on the planet, people. And then get innovative. Sometimes that means to actually take a step back and say, hey, we could have machines do this, but I want to invest in humanity and I want to move money more. So rather than have a machine do it, I'm going to hire people, take less profit, build my wealth still, but I'm going to do it in a way that empowers and employs other people. That's a tough one to solve, folks, but I'm inviting you into that conversation. How do we move money, prioritizing humanity and relationships, and then, if possible, also have some good innovation? Because those things all affect it. And those are carrots. I'm looking for carrots. I am not looking for sticks. Sticks do not work, especially with the wealthy. You try smacking them with a stick and see what happens. Not going to be pretty. All right, folks. This was just to start the dialogue. I hope this helps. Please like, subscribe, follow, share this with others, and we'll see you next time. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.